This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. You know, the Browns, we're so busy talking about this season and right now that we don't really think about what the future is for this team and what players on this team really have the potential to evolve into specifically something, you know, and what that evolution could be like. Sorry, I'm kind of slipping over my words right now for whatever reason. So what I want to do is go through the roster and point out guys where I'm like, hey, they probably are what they're going to be, but that's fine. They are what they're going to be. That's not fine. And these guys could be something more, or these guys are always going to make us hope that they could be something more. So let's go through the list. And you know what? We'll start a little unconventional. We'll start from 99 on down. Yeah, let's do it. Ain't nobody on the practice squad I think that is going to develop into anything. But let's start from the biggest numbers on out. First, let's look at the injured reserve list right here. Obviously, Nick Chubb is who he is, and that's a fantastic thing. Nobody is saying that you need to get more out of Nick Chubb. Jack Conklin is somebody who I feel like has already thoroughly evolved. Michael Dunn is a good player, but he is who he is. Cameron Mitchell is the first interesting player that we're going to talk about. And Cam Mitchell, to me, is a slot corner. I think that's what he evolves into, is a really good, solid slot corner who can occasionally play the outside. Think of him as what we hoped MJ Stewart would become, or what we wanted, like a lot of these guys that we brought in to be slot corner. Like, that's what we want from him. And I think he'll be that. I think that's what he'll be. The Browns, they're freakishly good at drafting these corners, right? Martin Emerson turned out to be really good. Greg Newsome is pretty good, even though he can be on and off with his injury history. But I mean, you look at the 24th pick in the draft, that's pretty good for that. I would even got to mention the decision to extend Denzel Ward. That wasn't a home run. They made that decision through their evaluation. They've really hit on a lot of these corner decisions, and I trust them implicitly. All right, let's look at the main roster now, or the active roster. You got Zadarius Smith. I would say the hope for him is to keep him around for a couple years while you're trying to win now, and that he can be one of the top 20 edges in the NFL, along with Myles Garrett. Jordan Elliott, and look, man, nobody is more shocked to say this than me. Jordan Elliott is getting a one-year deal at least next year. He coming back. I think the hope for him is just to be the third or fourth guy on the Browns roster, right? You know how teams keep like that third or fourth defensive tackle forever? That's the hope for him. One-year deals, be the third or fourth guy. That's what you want, right? You already have your anchor in Dalvin Tomlinson. You hope to bring in Siaki Ika. If Siaki Ika doesn't work out, you don't want it to all fall apart. So I think that Jordan Elliott is most certainly somebody who has a future with this team. Myles Garrett, I don't think he's reached his final form yet. I think we're approaching Myles Garrett's final form, but I really don't think we've reached it yet, to be honest with you. The thing with Myles Garrett and the TJ debate, right? And I know there's like a weird amount of Browns fans that always pipe up in defense of TJ Watt. And I understand TJ Watt's a really good player. He's a Hall of Fame level player, but and that's all true. But TJ Watt is who he's going to be. He's had his best years in the NFL already, I believe. Like this year, he's good. But if you look at the advanced stuff, if you look at, the Pro Football Focus grades, he's not nearly what he was a couple of years ago. Like, he's really good, but he's more like Trey Hendrickson good than where Myles or Michael Parsons is at right now. So you look at that, you take that in, TJ Watt's a Hall of Famer, and you say, well, Myles Garrett is too. And the difference between TJ Watt and Myles Garrett is this. TJ Watt's done what he's going to do to get into the Hall of Fame, and he's wrapped it up. Myles Garrett has done that as well, but he's still getting better. To me, this reminds me a lot of the Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James debate. If y'all were back in the day when LeBron first got drafted, there was an actual debate for LeBron's first 3 years in the NBA, I believe, of people like saying that Carmelo was better because Carmelo got into the league, he got into the league at an older age, same year as LeBron, though, same as TJ and Myles. He was more NBA ready. He was on a better team, and he was able to go to the playoffs consistently early in his career, whereas LeBron's first 2 years, he didn't make the playoffs. Now, once LeBron made the playoffs and almost eliminated the eventual NBA Finals champion, like took him to 6 or 7 or something like that, people started to calm down off that nonsense. But early in their career, people were saying, hey, Melo might be better. D-Wade might be better, right? Because LeBron was just at the same level as those guys at that point. He had yet to go up to where he's capable of. This is Myles Garrett's early arc where he is already at their level, and I think he got so much more room to grow. I think he's really just figuring out his superpowers right now. And for you to have a Hall of Fame career and you're still just figuring it out, yeah, you see what I mean. And that's why I think Myles has even more upside, which sounds ridiculous, but like that's where we're at. He's already lived up to the hype of being a number 1 overall pick in that draft, more so than any other number 1 overall edge rusher in recent memory, more so than any top 5 edge rusher in recent memory, right? Like none of these guys who are hyped up have lived up to it in the way that Myles Garrett lived up to it. Like you go back to the Joey Bosa's, the Nick Bosa's, the Chase Youngs, all of these edge rushers, Jadeveon Clowney, people swore Mario Williams, they're going to be the new revolution. Myles Garrett's the only one that's lived up to that. Once in a generation type player. And I really don't think he scratched the surface on what he can do. Like, I honestly think he's going to be a player who plays better with age because he's just going to get stronger and smarter. And maybe teams will sleep on him and not allow him to get some some one-on-ones. And it's going to be a wrap. Like, I think Myles Garrett will be good forever. And I really think he's ascending. Like, I think he's ascending. I think TJ has gone to the lengths in which he's going to go, which is already a Hall of Fame career. Myles Garrett can go beyond that. And like when I say Hall of Fame for TJ Watt, first ballot Hall of Fame career. Myles is there too. Myles is still getting better. In the same way that both LeBron and Carmelo Anthony are first ballot Hall of Famers. But there is no debate on who's the better player right now. I think once it's all said and done, we'll say the same thing about Myles in reference to TJ Watt. And again, TJ Watt is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like this, you could give respect to both players while also acknowledging why people tend to lean on the Myles side of this, especially this year, because I don't even think it's a question this year. If you're looking at the film, if you're looking at any of the advanced stuff, any metric that relies on looking at film, they tell you Myles is better. Dalvin Tomlinson, okay, he's kind of going to be guy who holds it down. Shelby Harris, he's just here for a year. Alex Wright is interesting to me because I look at Alex Wright and I think to myself, maybe a rotational guy at best. But then he has moments where I'm like, maybe he could be a key rotation guy. But I think he'll be a rotation guy at best. Maurice Hurst, I think, you can probably keep him around next year. Harrison Bryant, yeah, out of here, buddy. Out of here. Especially if they keep going the way. Like, on one hand, it's a credit to Kevin Stefanski and his creativity to put Nick Harris at fullback. On the other hand, it is a absolute death sentence for Harrison Bryant that they got Nick Harris out there playing fullback. Like, don't let Nick Harris come back here to offseason lose weight, play tight end next year. And if I'm Nick Harris, I would do it, dog. You got to stay in the league. This might be a way for you to, can you catch passes, Nick? Because you're not big for a center. but you might be giant for a tight end. Like, hey, bro, if I'm Nick Harris, like lose like 30 pounds over the summer, learn how to run some routes, you might be the fullback for real. Like, come back to camp next year, change your number to 47 because you took Harrison Bryant's future. Like, Harrison Bryant's supposed to be the fullback, y'all. Like, that's what he was here to do. He's supposed to be the fullback. And they don't even act like Nick Harris is not the fullback. Like, he's the full-time fullback. Harrison Bryant don't get brought in on the play. They bring in eligible tackle all the time and just have Nick Harris in the backfield now. It's not a special package anymore. It's just the fullback. Like, that's, on one hand, that's spectacular for Nick Harris. But, hey, man, everything comes at a cost. And the cost of that is Harrison Bryant. And that's okay with me. David Njoku, I think he is always going to be like a 600 to 800 yard tight end that you want to see more out of, but you just get really good out of, right? Like, you always believe he gonna have that elite season or he gonna have that breakout season or something like that, but he's gonna give you 600 to 700 yards or something around that range, right? He's never gonna be like up there with Travis Kelce or up there with George Kittle, but he will always be, man, if he could just get this together, he could be in that conversation, right? We always want to have that conversation about him. And partly because that's always the conversation we've had with him. Jordan Atkins has been horribly disappointing this year. DeJuan Jones, right tackle of the future, put him there, pay him, let him play for 10 years. You said. I don't know what the pre-draft problems were. Maybe those show up the longer he's here. But if he plays like this and he's not a problem for the locker room at all right now, DeJuan Jones going to be here for like 10 years. He's going to play right tackle and we're going to be cool with it. So shout out to DeJuan Jones. Wyatt Teller, I would be looking for an exit plan on Wyatt Teller. It does not look like he's returning to form anytime soon. He's a solid guard still, but, not the guard you're paying for. So I would start to see if you can draft a cheaper upgrade or a cheaper replacement. Joe Bitonio is getting time. Joe Bitonio been in the league about 10 years. It's getting time on him. So you want to be ready in the next couple of years to replace good old Joe. But you're going to let Joe play it out, retire here in Cleveland. He's been here long enough. Man was here when Johnny Football was on the team. Like, you're not about to cut him. Let him play it out. Let him, I think also like Joe Bitonio's career and Joe Bitonio, if he gets to the point to where he just retires in Cleveland, that signifies a change of the era of what the Browns were and what they are now. We talk about this Browns team as being a much more stable organization than they've ever been. And I think the pinnacle of that, the piece that you can point to of that is the amount of players that have gotten extended from their rookie deal still on this team compared to what was the norm 10 years ago. Joe Bitonio's the one guy left from that era. There are plenty of guys from the 2014, 2013 era of Browns that are in the NFL. One guy left on this team. Maybe two guys throughout that era that were consistently on that team with Joe. But Joe's been the main guy. And if Joe retires here, that says, hey, look at how many of these guys that have been on the Browns forever, and Joe Bitonio's retiring, he's been on the Browns forever. You just start to feel like a more stable organization if you have Joe on this team forever, right? Because that's the stuff that every other team has that you haven't had. How many true alumni did the Cleveland Browns get in the last 20 years? Right? We don't really have true alumni out there. Like, we have Joe Thomas, we got Josh Cribbs, and we kind of got Joe Hayden. And Phil Dawson. Phil Dawson's a true alumni. But like everybody else, they played the bulk of their career somewhere else. Right? Even if their most memorable years were here, they played a lot of football other places. Joe Hayden played as much in Pittsburgh as he did in Cleveland. Right? So he's tough to even count for this, right? Joe Thomas is the one lifer that you have here. Phil Dawson was a lifer for a while. He played like a couple years at the end of his career, right? And if Joe plays a couple years at the end of his career, like Atlanta or something like that, like ain't nobody gonna not think of him as a Cleveland Brown. So that's what I mean. Like we don't have guys like that. Like you look at Pittsburgh, they got like 13, 14 guys like that in the last 20 years. We got 3. And Joe would be the first of this new batch to retire. That will be the first of many guys whose whole career or the bulk of their career is deeply associated with Cleveland Browns football. And that will be the signifier of a change of an era there. James Hudson, I think they just want him to be a swing tackle, maybe bring him back on some low money, but I don't think they really believe in him as a starter. We'll see what happens, though, with him on the left side if they feel like they need to replace him. Siaki Ika and Isaiah McGuire, I think these are 2 interesting guys. Realistically, they're late-round picks. If one of them becomes a reliable player, good on me, good on you, man. Honestly, out this last draft, DeJuan Jones hitting is probably good enough to call that draft a success. But out of Luke Whippler, Isaiah McGuire, Siaki Ika, if you could get 2 reliable players, a backup and a starter, that's a success. That's a massive success in that draft. And I think Luke Whippler will eventually become a center here. He needs a couple years, or a guard. I think he could be in the conversation for the replacement of Wyatt Teller in a couple years. And I think Isaiah McGuire, I like what I saw from him, but I haven't seen enough to really say anything either way. Obo Okoronkwo, I think their dream for him is to keep him around long term as the energy guy, right? Like if you look at the defensive line, like a basketball team, Obo doesn't start, but he's the 6th man. And I think they like him in that role. And I think that's where Obo is going to be at his best, is as a 6th man. Nick Harris, we talked about it with him, man. Hey, way to make sure you hold on to your NFL career by any means necessary. The brother playing fullback right now. Essentially, he playing fullback right now. Like he's so good at it that I worry if there's an injury at center that we have to play him. Like I kind of want to play Luke Whippler because I don't want to lose my fullback. Like, he's that good there. But yeah, shout out to Nick Harris, man, because we thought it was a wrap for him in camp. We thought because Luke Whippler was playing well, we thought it was a wrap. But you know what? Nick Harris found a way to stick on, man. And shout out to Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski for not giving up on somebody just because plan A doesn't work out. All right, let's pivot to plan B. And who would have thought plan B for Nick Harris would have been fullback? Kevin and Andrew. And they're the only 2. Nobody else saw that coming, man. But that's what keeping guys around. That's what having longevity in the front office and the coaching staff does for you. It allows you to not give up on a talented player and find a plan B for them so you can keep talented players. That's been it. Sione Takitaki, been real solid. I think he's always going to be kind of, I don't know if he stays long term, but he's always going to be in and out of the franchise, I feel like. Like he'll be gone for like a year, come back, gone for a year or 2, come back for a couple years. Like he's going to always constantly kind of be in and out because he's such a useful player, but he's not the type of player that you pay a bunch of money to. So it's kind of tough for him. I don't really see anything for any of these guys here. Matthew Adams still on the team. Shout out to him. Oh, no, that's not the Matthew Adams. I'm thinking about running back. Jerome Ford, I think they see him. I think they want him to be a feature back, but I don't know if they still believe he's going to be a feature back. I think they want him to be a home run hitter at this point, and that's what he's going to be. Kareem Hunt. Hey, man, keep doing your thing. Martin Emerson, I think they see him as a long-term number 2 corner opposite of Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome. I think he is the most secure one. I think he's the guy that does not move because he offers a much different skill set than what's common to find because of his size and willingness to be physical. Not a lot of guys can do that and be good. Right. And Martin Emerson can do that and be good. And he's a perfect guy to be as a number 2 corner, because if you're going to choose to pick on the number 2 corner, Martin Emerson, he's the kind of guy who could poach you. Right. Greg Newsome doesn't have the type of instincts for the ball that could poach. And I think Martin Emerson, he can create some turnovers. He'll give up some deep balls every once in a while, but he'll create a turnover too. In his young career, you've seen it. I think he has 2 already. Grant Delpit, man. I think he's going to be on the team for like at least another year after this. I don't know if his long-term future is here in Cleveland, not because they don't want to keep him, but just because money, he might be a cap casualty for the Browns, but he gonna get his bag. I think he's going to get paid. I think he's kind of starting to live up to what he was at LSU. Denzel Ward, we talked about him. Pierre Strong, I like him. Cedric Tillman. What's the future look like for Ceddy T? I think best case scenario out of Ceddy T, you get a 700 to 800 yard receiver who might be pretty high in touchdowns, right, every year. He would be an ideal second option. Like, I don't want to say number 2 receiver, lock him into the 2, but he'll be an ideal second option. Like, think of a bigger version of, I'm blanking on names, like Kenny Stills or something like that. Like somebody who could be an end zone threat, somebody who can be a number 2 option, kind of be reliable like that. I think that's what they hope from him. I don't know if his future is a number 1 wide receiver because he doesn't have the necessary like deep ball speed, but some guys have been able to make it happen. But he would be, I would think if that was what he could be in the NFL, he would be damn close to that already, or you would see it more often he'd be playing. David Bell, I think, we'll see if he's got to stick around. He's having some trouble right now sticking around. He's made a couple big plays for the Browns, but he's having some trouble sticking around. DTR, he's going to start for somebody eventually, I believe. I don't think that will be with the Cleveland Browns, but he will start for somebody eventually. He might even be a starter for a couple of years. I think he eventually settles into a role as a backup, but I do see a world where he gets put in to the right spot and plays very well. Corey Bojorquez, Elijah Moore. Man, I'm just, as each week goes on, I'm believing in less and less and less and less. I think the ideal situation for Elijah Moore is he becomes a number 1 wide receiver to complement Cedric Tillman. I'm not seeing it right now. And I know he's getting open, and I know people are complaining about how he's getting used, but like, I got to ask this question to my people making that argument. If everywhere he goes, he's getting used wrong, whether the quarterback's decent, whether the quarterback plays bad, like even when Deshaun plays well, it's not like he's hitting Elijah Moore a ton. Honestly, Deshaun plays worse when he's trying to target Elijah Moore. So if the quarterback play, like if no matter what happens there, he's always kind of underperforming. At some point, you have to say to yourself, maybe my evaluation of this is a bit flawed. Because if my evaluation were true, he would be balling right now. He got 50 targets. He's less productive than he was last year on 35. On the Jets. Hey, man, like Amari Cooper finding a way to be productive, no matter who the quarterback is. And I'm not saying you got to be Amari Cooper, but I kind of am, because we thought you could be a number 1 receiver at the future. Hell, we traded a second for you. Amari was a 5th. I understand money and all that changes the value, but relatively similar value, right? If you factor in the money that you traded for Amari Cooper, not even close to the same production. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think they want him to be that number 1 receiver guy. But again, if everywhere we go, we always saying the same excuse, like at some point we just got to ask ourselves, is this the excuse or is this you? You know what I mean? And I don't know if he's doing anything bad. I'm just saying, like, they told me he was getting open in New York. He never got the ball. They telling me he's open in Cleveland. He never get the ball. Maybe there's a reason. You know what I mean? And nothing like he's doing behind the scenes, but I'm saying, like, maybe there's a reason that he's flashing open in all these places and not getting the football, because maybe he's just making bad reads and getting lucky. Like, I don't know. I don't know, but something's wrong with that whole picture there with Elijah Moore. And hopefully I look like an idiot at the end of the year. He puts up 800 in the last 8 games and he could be the future one. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to be honest with it. I'm not sure I am. JOK. I think JOK is always going to be a really interesting, like the David Njoku of the defense. That's what I think JOK is going to settle in on. Like, there's so much potential when he's playing well. You're like, my goodness, he could be one of the best in the league. But he's always going to have these spurts where he's in and out. Right? He's hot, he's cold. I think he's a streaky player. I think he's settling into that. And I think the quicker we realize that, the more we will understand that and appreciate what he does do, and understand what he does not do well. But yeah, JOK, I think he's going to always be kind of a hot and cold player. That doesn't mean he's garbage or anything like that. It means he's going to be really good in spurts. In some spurts, he's not. But I think you can live with that. I think that's pretty okay. And a lot of linebackers are like that, to be honest. Deshaun Watson, what does the evolved version of Deshaun Watson look like? I want to see a Deshaun Watson that's more comfortable in the pocket. I want to see a Deshaun Watson that uses his contact balance. He has elite contact balance. Like, that's the one thing. I don't care how old he gets. His contact balance will always be elite as long as he's like in playing age in the NFL. And instead of using that contact balance to escape the pocket and throw out of bounds and throw down the field on the run, which is fine every once in a while. Like, I don't mind that. And he's probably going to do some of that against Baltimore this Sunday. But I want him to use that contact balance to get these throws off, right? To stay in the pocket and know, okay, I can stay here. I know you can't get me down. Let me get this ball out real quick. And not just get it out to somebody. We've seen spurts of that, but I think that's peak Deshaun Watson. I understand he does some spectacular stuff, throwing the run, running the ball, but I think his most special throws are when he's hitching up and stepping up in the pocket. I'm going to put it right here. I think Deshaun Watson has the potential to be more special as a pocket passer than he is as an athlete. I really do. His accuracy is insane. And if he gets back on that, I think you'll see the evolution of him. But it all depends on if he's willing to change his game. And we'll see what that looks like going forward, right? Because he's not going to just tell you he's changing his game, right? Like, that's not usually how this thing works. Coop going to be solid. Juan going to be Juan. Greg Newsome, I don't know, man. I think Greg Newsome ends up being a cap casualty. Like, I think he ends up somewhere else at the end of his rookie deal, because Martin Emerson is a better fit next to Denzel Ward. You feel like if you need a slot corner, you can go with Cam Mitchell in the future. That's why you drafted him, or you could draft somebody else to do it. And Greg just don't really fit into these plans. You know what I mean? Like, it just don't seem like it's fitting in, and he gets injured more often as each year goes on. And I just think that Greg's probably going to be somewhere else. And he'll be a good corner for somebody else, but I think he end up somewhere else. But that's my thoughts about the players on this roster, pretty much every single one of them. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.